Hey, third grade friends, it's Mrs. Herbay. Before we get started on the second part of this week's Eloise Renouf tree project, I just wanted to share with you guys a little brainstorm that we ended up doing in our third grade classes that met at school. And I wanted to share it with you guys as well because it was helpful in allowing the students it was helpful to give the students ideas on designs that they could do for their trees. So what we did was we brainstormed all of the type of lines that we could use for branches. And we thought they could be straight, which means they could either be horizontal or vertical or diagonal. They could also be thick or thin or long or short. They could also be, instead of being straight, they could be curved or wavy, okay? So that gives us sort of a menu of different branch lines that we can choose from. And then when we went over to leaves, we talked about the shape of leaves. And obviously leaves can be sort of the traditional shape, but they could also be, again, they could be larger or smaller. You could represent leaves with tiny little dots all over the place. You could do leaves kind of with sort of like these little, they could be more like pine needle-y type leaves. You could represent leaves just with curved lines because we talked about how a traditional like first grade or kindergarten tree has these curved lines. We talked about how maybe you could fill up the space with dashes that might be able to show that there's leaves. And also if there was fruit, we could draw the shape of the fruit. And if we really wanted to just make it simple, it could be circles. So what you could do is when you have your shapes, so let's say you have your shape here and you almost act like you're ordering from a menu. So you say, all right, I'd like to use horizontal and vertical lines. I want them to be thick. And then what you do is you get started. So you say, okay, well, I need a vertical line. That's for my trunk going all the way up. And then maybe I just want horizontal branches that go like that. And then that could be it. But then maybe you say, well, I want to add a little more interest, so I want to add some leaves. Well, how would you like to add leaves? How do you think leaves what type of leaf would add to this design? So maybe I decide, all right, I'm going to add a leaf onto the end of each branch. And then that's that. I'll give you maybe one more. So then maybe I have this smaller tree here. And this time I want to use diagonal and thin. Oh wait, I forgot that we said this was going to be thick. So if this is going to be thick, then I would thicken these lines up. And I would end up coloring these leaves in. I can just draw a line parallel with that other line and then fill it in. And then I can go ahead and color these leaves in. I won't color them all in, but you get the idea. So this time maybe I want to do thin and I want to do diagonal. So there's my thin line. And then maybe I choose some diagonal lines, and then maybe I keep using diagonal lines. And there's my tree. And maybe then I say, okay, I'd like to have some leaves on my tree. Well, maybe this time I'm just going to put dots all along the background to kind of give the idea of leaves. And there you have it. So those, I hope that helps you, but there's probably endless possibilities by choosing different lines. And sometimes you might even say, I'll show you one quick more. Sometimes you might even say, well, you can either have branches with no leaves, or you could have all leaves and no branches. So for example, let's say I just wanted to draw leaves inside my shape here, and then I can add the trunk, and then I can decide, do I want to put veins on the leaves? Like that, and then there are no branches, and that's okay too. So I hope that if you got a little bit stuck, I hope this kind of helps you. And now I'll show you what the next step is after you get all your designs drawn onto your circles. So in your packet, you have this black piece of paper, this blue turquoise piece of paper, and this gray piece of paper. Today, we will first work with the turquoise piece and the gray piece. And what we're going to do is we're going to turn this turquoise piece over. We are going to take our glue stick. We're going to outline around the outer edge. Make sure we get around the edge first. And then what I like to do is kind of make sort of an asterisk, fill that part with glue. And then what we're going to do is we're going to line up the edges, the top, and then line up the sides. And then we're going to give it a smooth, right? And then what you're going to do is you're going to get out all of your trees, and you're just going to kind of lay them onto your paper. And you're kind of going to now create this colorful forest. And what you can do is you're going to kind of decide what trees you want in the back and what trees you want in the front. And the other thing you want to think about is you don't need to just put them, you know, straight across in a row. They can kind of be staggered. So, for example, I might just experiment like, okay, this is a fairly big tree, so I might put that in the back. This one is a little bit smaller. I might put this one in the front. Maybe this one will also go in the back. You can also base it on colors. Do you want two of the greens together? Do you want to spread out the green? Do you think this looks good back here? You can kind of play around with it. I have a lot of tall, thin ones, so maybe I want those to be staggered. Kind of spread them around. And then if you don't like it, you can kind of say, well, what if I move this guy up here and this guy down here? Do I like that any better? What if this one overlaps that one? So you can kind of, and then once you get it how you like it, then we're going to glue it down. And what you can do is, this shifted a little bit, but that's okay. What I like to do is start with the back trees. So I'm going to start with this tree. I'm going to leave the rest of the trees in place. I'm just going to kind of slide this tree out. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some glue on it. So So making sure I get all the way around the edges. And then I'm just going to kind of slide it in there. And then, you know, this tree's kind of, and I actually, no, I think I want this tree to go. Or maybe, it's funny, you can still be playing around with it as you, no, I don't like that. I think I'm going to put this one back up here. Or, I have an idea. What if I switched out this one and this one? So you can see how all right, maybe that's a little bit better. Maybe I like that a little bit better. All right, so then what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep going. So I'm going to take all of my back circles or ovals. And we want to kind of try to put them all together. You want to sort of imagine that when you go on a drive with your family and you look at the leaves and you just see a big forest of color. We're sort of creating this forest of color. And then there I have my back ones on. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go with the next layer. So now it's time for this green one. And by overlapping the trees, we give the viewer a sense of depth with the overlapping. So straighten that out. And this is the next one kind of behind here. I'm going to scoot this down. So this tree branch will be, or tree trunk will be able to come down there. I'm going to have this guy here. There we go. I think I'm liking that now. And then this guy is going to go here. This guy. Is going to go there. And then last but not least, this one. Go like right there. It's not quite sticking. All right, then once you have all of the trees glued down, then what you can do is you can decide, I'm going to have the trunk of the trees kind of come down, and you can decide this one can be a little bit longer than this one. So you can kind of stagger the lengths of them. This one can come down here like this. And then what I'm going to do is I will grab my Sharpie and then I will just extend that line down. There's that one, that one, that one, and that one. And then you are done with this part, and then for the final part we will take the black piece And we are going to end up gluing this to the black piece. So then it will kind of, the black will kind of also helps the Sharpie black lines to show up. So again, we'll flip this over, outline the edges with my glue stick. Make my X marks the spot a couple times. And then I'm going to, now what I like to do is kind of lay it down, and before I really stick it, I want to make sure that it is even, or fairly even, mostly straight and even going around. And then I'll smooth it. And voila! Some friends at school were asking when they finish if you could actually add a little bit of color. And of course, that's fine if you want to. The paper sort of serves as color, but in this case, maybe I want to color the trunk of this tree. So I could take like a colored pencil and color the trunk. There's really no other spots to color, but maybe I also wanted to, I could color in some of these leaves that are showing. And another question that came up at school was, some friends thought, oh, well, maybe I want to draw a few leaves laying on the ground. So for example, if this tree was shedding its leaves, it would be some dots that were laying. And this tree, it would be sort of some of these leaves. And if you have any other creative ideas that you would like to apply to it, please feel free. So hope you had fun with this.